Hello everyone and welcome back to another edition of Walford Weekly, your EastEnders podcast reviewing the week that was Monday the 2nd to Friday the 6th of November as it was broadcast on the BBC in the UK. As it's now become a familiar habit, we have Rob with us. Hello Rob.
Hello Alex, how are you?
I'm very, very well. Very
Excellent.
Positive.
Good. Oh yeah, well, so you need to cut that out as far as I'm concerned.
I know. I'm sure there'll be something that we'll talk about a little bit later, which we may be a little bit less keen on. But a little bit of news came out of the old EastEnders mill, and that is that this year for Children in Need, they're not going to do a song and dance routine. They're not going to do a special crossover episode of Coronation Street or Brookside or Hollyoaks or anything like that. They've decided, for better or
Brookside
for
would have been good. I'd have been up for that. I like Brookside.
But I think they're a bit behind now, unless they kind of bring back. They could bring back the old characters. That'd be fun, actually.
I don't think most of them are still alive.
or buried under patios.
Oh yeah, exactly.
What they've decided to do is they've decided to use that set of The Wall, which is the Danny Dyer game show. Anyone outside of the UK or hasn't watched it before, it's essentially just a giant game of pachinko where they drop balls.
What?
Pachinko, it's in Japan when you drop ball bearings into loads of pins and then it goes into a section at the bottom and it's like lose. And in the case of The Wall, there's money to be won. But obviously, because it's for charity, it's not just any old Tom, Dick and Harry who's entering the competition this year. No, it's Callum and Mitch. Feelings about this outcome, that is that they're not doing a special episode, instead they're doing an episode of The Wall instead.
Drop 'em. Seems to be Danny's catchphrase. I mean, I've seen The Wall a few times. It's all right. It's entertaining for what it is.
I mean, I've watched it, and I'm sorry, I can't stand it. It's just
Can you
awful.
not? No. It's got Danny Dyer flirting with a wall. Like, it's got Angela Rippon.
Oh, is it Angela Rippon? I wondered who the voice was.
So I know Angela Rippon because when I was about 4, apparently, like I had 4-year-old crushes. I used to go up and kiss the TV whenever she was on. So me and Angela go way back.
Wow, you have a history.
And clearly, me and Danny have similar feelings towards her because he's always like calling her babe and baby and love and any other sort of London words. I'm surprised they didn't go for Callum Ben. I'll be honest, if they're gonna do that sort of thing.
I know, I was surprised that they were going to go for the Ballum route, but so Mitch just kind of, I imagine it was just who was available at the time. They just kind of said who fancies doing it. Letitia Dean would have been my number one choice.
Absolutely.
Her, I don't know, with anyone really. Her and Adam Woodyatt would have been perfect.
That'd have been good.
That'd have been fine. I mean, Callum and Mitch.
Lacey Turner.
Lacey would have been good. I can't imagine Lacey again. I mean, you have to be, as a contestant on The Wall, you have to be quite enthusiastic about a machine that basically drops balls every now and then. I don't know. It's just, well, you do, don't you? They've got this kind of really Americanized, no offense to our American listeners, but this kind of over the top attitude while they're watching it, while they're playing the game.
Oh, they proper hurl abuse at the wall. It's great fun to watch sometimes.
I was watching an episode and one guy was just running around in circles because he won like £1,000, and it's like, come on, mate.
If I just said to you now, you've won £1,000, Alex, congratulations, you'd be running around the room.
I'd be pleased, but I don't think I'd be that enthusiastic.
Not just because you run at 6 o'clock in the morning. Some of us would run for money, Alex.
Would you?
Yes.
I mean, fine. It's entertainment for entertainment purposes. It's nice that they're doing it for children in need. Obviously, earn a bit of extra money for Pudsey and the kids that it's helping out. But I was just a bit disappointed, that was all, that they're not doing a song and dance. And I get it because of COVID.
Yes,
it was difficult to do.
COVID, it ruins everything.
Yeah, but last year they did a Disney special and Sharon spoke to Mickey Mouse, and it was just such a lovely moment.
She did. I know, but I think, like you say, COVID is just ruining everything at the moment. And I think that having seen a few episodes of The Wall, it's quite safely socially distant. Half the time the contestants aren't even in the same room for an episode.
Oh God, so they get put on the screen, don't they?
Spoiler alert for anyone who's not watched it, but they get broken up, and then they have to answer. So one of them answers questions, and the other one plays pachinko or whatever you said it was called. Yeah,
pachinko. I've never got that far to watching it, to be honest with you. I literally just watched the first round where it was like either A or B answers and then running, and then I was like, no, done. This is enough. This is enough for me. I'm not participating in this
fair enough.
Giant pachinko machine.
So that's our name scrubbed off the BBC wish list for episodes of The Wall in future. Then
I mean, if they're gonna do a minor celebrity special,
speak for yourself.
But then I'll be there, but just don't expect enthusiasm to the degree that I saw that Saturday night I watched it. no time like the present then to get started, and we are going to begin with Jay, Honey, and Billy and Lola saga. Not necessarily in that order. That was a strange order to portray them all in.
Well, I'll tell you what, yes, that's part of the component. They were a component in another story that was going on for the whole week. The whole week, this theme was going throughout the whole of all the storylines. And it's a very contentious issue, and I apologise for anybody that might be offended by anything we're about to discuss. Condiments. Everyone was on about condiments this week.
Are you talking about the bacon sandwiches? And
bacon sandwiches, ketchup all over Isaac's breakfast.
Yeah.
There was another one. Everybody was just on about condiments. And, Rainie pouring ketchup all over ice cream.
Stuart joined her at the end of the week too.
Pineapples on pizza. I mean...
Nothing wrong with pineapple on pizza, is there?
Oh, see, I knew you'd say that. I knew you were going to say that. Of course there's something wrong with pineapples on pizza. Now, obviously here we're talking, we're a meat eater and a vegan, so we're going to have different opinions. So I'm not going to ask you what sauce you would put in a bacon sandwich, because that's not the sort of thing you'd eat. But, on your Quorn sandwich or whatever you eat, what is the...
Well... As a former meat eater, I wasn't born a vegan. I'm afraid to say I didn't.
You mean it's a choice?
It was a choice that I chose to make. But before that, I would be very, very adamant that it's brown sauce 100%.
Wow. See, I'm a mayo guy myself.
On a bacon sandwich?
Yeah, I know I'm worse than Rainie. Everyone always says this to me, and I think it's fairly normal. Yeah, mayo on a bacon sandwich, love it.
It's just disgraceful.
See, I've enjoyed my time on Walford Weekly.
Yeah, I don't think it's right. I don't think it's very European of you to have mayonnaise. I mean, a lot of again, I may offend European listeners here, but they tend to like mayonnaise on like chips or with eggs and stuff like that.
I can see that mayo and eggs.
Yeah,
I don't like eggs.
But again, really. I haven't had an egg in a very long time. But I wouldn't personally. Well, no, because it's milk chocolate. You have to find.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
This is becoming quite. Welcome to the vegan podcast.
Told you. Controversial. Anyway, before me and Alex have a proper tear up, Jay, Honey, and Lola. Yes.
They've had a much more peaceful time, despite after Billy discovering the news of what had happened to Honey last week, and decided that best course of action would be to hurt Paul, the man who photographed Honey. Jay was the sensible head in this whole story this week, and it was so lovely to see. As we mentioned last week, Jay is the kind, very considerate person, and he knew that if Billy had gone forward with hurting Paul, it would just hurt Honey more. So he said, just leave it, just forget it. It's not for the benefit of Honey. Yeah,
I think Billy reacted the way that we'd expect him to react, really. And I guess it's an understandable reaction to want to cave Paul's head in with a brick.
Yeah, but isn't really Billy's place to react like that anymore? I mean, Honey and Billy are not an item anymore. Honey has made it clear that she doesn't want to be with Billy anymore, even though there was hints of it just before lockdown that she did want to get back together with Billy because she got a bit jealous of his relationship with Karen. For me, I just don't think it's Billy's place to have that feeling anymore that he should be Honey's protector of her.
No, I know, you're right, but I think that, you're talking about the mother of his kids, and, there's always going to be, because Billy was the one that messed up in the first place, in typical Billy fashion, he's got that sort of guilt associated with why they've broken up. He's probably sees it as half his fault that Honey's journey for the past year has been the way it is. If she hadn't slept with Tina, then she wouldn't have got with Adam, and then her eating disorder wouldn't have come back. And then clearly she wouldn't have been in the situation with Paul because they would still have been together. And let's be fair, it's the Mitchell way, isn't it? If someone annoys you, I'm going to kill them. That's, that's sort of the Mitchell way of dealing with anything.
Yeah, but Billy's the run to the litter, and he can. You could just imagine him thrusting this brick at someone. It'd probably just land just in front of them because it'd be thrown so weakly. It'd just literally drop in front of him. Talking about Adam, I probably this has got nothing to do with the story really, but Adam and Honey's story. There was obviously it didn't really go anywhere in the end to what we thought was going to happen. But do you think if Chantel and Gray's story hadn't been developed to the way it had, it was always destined to be Honey?
It did seem that way. Yeah, it's Honey and Adam. It did seem that way. I thought, to be fair, they were going more down a sort of coercive control route with Adam and Honey. But Yeah, that seemed to be more the way it was going. And then, you sort of had Honey looking at pictures of herself when she was younger, and it was kind of like, oh, is she going to go down the plastic surgery route or something like that? So because it seemed like Adam was really getting inside her head and sort of mentally messing with her and reducing her confidence.
I feel that they had planned that story of Honey, but they didn't have the confidence to then kill Honey. The same story with Chantel had happened to Honey. I just feel like the writers almost wouldn't have had the confidence to kind of pull off the aftermath, because again, it's the criticism of their aftermath of what they've done with Chantel, in my opinion.
Well,
and that is that there hasn't been any particularly. Even this week, there was a slight mention of it, but it was just a passing.
Well, I think what you're also looking at there is the fact that if the Chantal and Grey storyline had played out with Honey and Adam, you'd have been getting rid of Honey, which, who's quite a well-known character within the soap, and B, you'd have stuck with Adam, who wasn't that much of a strong character. I mean, you could say that about Grey possibly. But
yeah, but we don't really know much. I personally don't know much more about Grey than I did or do know about Adam.
No, that's true.
Lawyer,
dentist,
yeah,
angry, mean.
Professional.
That's about it.
Male professionals, yeah.
Yeah, wears a tie. So yeah, no, I do. I see what you mean. But I think the thing is with Grey and Chantel, they were very much going for the behind closed doors sort of thing, and that was very much the theme of that story. Whereas Honey and Adam was sort of
a little bit out in the open.
Yeah, I would say. Moving on, Jay and Honey getting obviously considerably closer throughout the week. There were some really nice scenes with them, actually. I really enjoyed the Honey and Jay stuff this week.
I love the scenes between Honey and Jay.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah.
I know there's a bit of negativity out there about them getting together, and it does feel a little bit strange considering Jay is kind of like being the son of Billy. I don't know. I quite like the relationship that has been built around them.
They seem to work all right as a pair, and with someone like Jay, he knows Honey's background, he knows her ways she is with food and all that sort of thing. There was a really nice scene in the cafe at the start of the week where, they were sat having a coffee together and they were talking about the attack, and Jay actually notices that Honey's barely sipping at her coffee and can see the signs and, sort of saying, come on, it's Skims, you can drink that. Don't let this stop you looking after yourself.
Yeah, see, that was a lovely touch. Yeah, that was a great touch. They did that.
And that's just typical Jay, really, isn't it? I mean, lovely boy, we love Jay. And then again, there was another really nice scene later on when they were both on the swings. I think they're going to work. I mean, I think also, hopefully, I've got everything crossed, because all this will need for me is for Jay to have a sort of internal moment of, actually, am I going to do this to Billy? Can I do this? That's all I want from it. Just all I want. I don't want him to just wildly jump into bed with her and then for them to start having this steamy love affair behind everyone's back without that sort of initial moment of hesitation on Jay's part.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that, for me, I don't think Jay has any intention or had any intention to get together with Honey at any point up until the episode where Lola admitted that she had slept with Peter. And the only reason she did that was because she had the conversation with Issac. Get ready for Lola and Issac, that's going to happen. And obviously... I
mean, I think they're better suited.
But do you think they're both quite cunning, aren't they, and conniving in a strange way?
I just think... The thing is, actually, Lola does annoy me as a character because I feel like she's not really done a lot since she's been back. But I have to say that I think she sort of worked for me this week. What I'm seeing with Lola is somebody who clearly just wants to be single. She wants to go out. I think she misses the opportunity to go out and have a good time. Obviously she loves Lexi and she's a good, she's a mum. But I think she misses that opportunity of going out and just going mad and pulling guys and doing all this sort of thing. And when you're with somebody like Jay, good old firm, dependable Jay, I think the conversation that Issac essentially had with her was, don't use me to scratch an itch that Jay isn't doing for you, because that's not fair on any of us.
Lola doesn't really know what she wants. I really don't. No. I think she gets what she wants and then she doesn't want it anymore. And that's, I suppose that's always been Lola's character. So it's good that they're kind of keeping that continuity consistent up. That's what makes Lola, for me, so unlikable and so difficult to like as a character. She's not even like, oh, she's a little bit whimsical. Oh, but that's just Lola. It doesn't feel like that for me. It's Lola is annoying, a pain, and really doesn't have any purpose anymore.
I mean, I am surprised that she didn't sleep with Issac this week. I thought that was where it was heading.
Oh, totally. And I'm sure it will head that way. It's going to happen.
It will head that way now, but I think obviously this is probably Jay and Lola over now, isn't it, surely?
I think so. I mean, you didn't get reaction from Jay other than a bit of a childish strop.
Just a discerning scoff.
Yeah, and then just kind of stormed out the room. But this is another thing that I'm concerned about. I don't want it to turn into Lola blaming Jay for the reason why they split up, because that's what's going to happen. Again, another trait of Lola is that it's never her fault. And I just just think that she's going to get Isaac on her side as well, and there's going to be this horrible bitterness between Isaac and Jay. And I don't mind Isaac's character. I just want to see more of him. I don't want him necessarily attached to Lola, but I think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Isaac is just an enigma for me at the moment. Again, this week, we sort of had him, I feel like Isaac should have been at school this week and yet wasn't. And I feel that's not to do with sort of inconsistency with the writing. I feel like he was actually supposed to be there and just wasn't. I'm sure there was a kind of throwaway line that implied that Isaac should have been at work.
He was on the bench, wasn't he, eating the cornflakes and ketchup, as you mentioned earlier. And so hadn't he gone to like something? I'm sure it was work related, and he'd been drinking too much. I don't know. I can't remember, to be honest. But
because they implied that he I don't know, because when he went into that was it. He went into the salon to get Lola for his breakfast date, and I think she said something along the lines to him, "Aren't you supposed to be at work?" And he said, "Well, that's the joy of being a supply teacher. You know, I'm not needed today," or something like that.
Right.
So again, do you know what I mean? They keep throwing in these little lines about Isaac. You know, when like Shirley last week saying that he'd be falling asleep in the classroom and he was fast asleep on the bench in the square. I feel like there's something going on with Isaac in the background that we're not being told yet.
For now, I think it's only just kind of convenience that Isaac should be there to be a shoulder for Lola to moan on. I'd say cry, but she doesn't cry, she moans.
Just whinge on.
Yeah, and over their brunch in the Vic. I didn't realise the Vic did brunch.
No, well, you know, they have to now, don't they? Sharon's an enigmatic businesswoman.
Where is Sharon? I never see her in the Vic.
Oh, she had a day off, bless her. She's earned it.
She has many days off. This is the point we were making, that she's meant to be the centre stage. Whoever runs the Vic, hopefully the Panesars one day. Suki, nod.
I think
nudge.
Tracy literally just had it to herself this week, didn't she?
Well, that's what I mean.
Ian wasn't there either.
Well, I don't know if Ian even works there. He just owns it, or kind of owns it. He's on loan with the bank, isn't it? Really, at the moment.
Yeah.
Sharon has no stories anymore, and that she's in the centre. She's in like the nucleus of Albert Square. It just seems really strange that we don't see Sharon, not even there just to make like a remark every now and then. Really
but
strange.
We know she's got her legs out at Christmas, so she is coming.
We have to talk about Christmas very soon, Rob. We have to do our Christmas predictions. Oh yeah.
Do I have to wear a Christmas hat?
If you want to.
Is that the tradition? I will.
No one would ever stop you. I will wear a reindeer hoodie if I can find one. I'm desperately trying to find one. I think they look quite fun. Anyone listening who knows of a link, please send me it, because I do want to find one.
Share them. We'll send our pictures.
Yeah.
Hopefully get money for them.
Of course we will. Of course. Anyway, moving on to more EastEnders, and we are going to the Slaters and Kat and Kush and Phil as well. We mustn't forget Phil, because yet again, if in doubt, chuck Phil in and let's have a heist. But luckily, I think it was extinguished. Or hopefully, it's been extinguished before the fire even started, because Kat's grand plan is that in order to make the money to pay Suki every month, presumably they do a bank robbery every now and then.
It's like a payday.
It is. Don't work.
Rob a bank.
That's the morals that we're trying to teach our children nowadays. Or whatever.
I think it's an excellent lesson. I wish I'd learned that at school instead of algebra. So because that Kush has obviously lost the Slaters their home in a bet. Now, the one thing I did want to kind of pick up on this, it wasn't a thread that was sort of left dangling for long, because Suki had a sort of change of heart. But my immediate thought was, I mean, as much as I loved the poker game and Suki sat there all iconically as she rinsed the Slaters for all they were worth, surely a landlord kicking her tenants out over a poker game isn't that legal. I wouldn't have thought, is it? Like, surely all the Slaters needed to do was kind of go to court, and the case would be thrown out in a second, and they'd be absolutely fine, and Suki would probably lose her landlord points or whatever happens. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the only thing they could have going for them is the fact that I don't think Ruby's was licensed for gambling, and so technically perhaps wasn't a bet. But then maybe Suki could argue it was a agreement between two people. I don't know.
Yeah, well, she hired the club out, didn't she? So I'm pretty sure that as long as you're not doing anything too illegal in there, a quick game of poker, that's all right.
Yeah, but if it's but that game of poker can't be for For instance, a house.
A house.
I mean, without a gambling license, I don't think that's, even with a gambling license, I don't think that's particularly seen by many. But then the police are too busy at the moment. The police are busy sorting out, trying to get Phil arrested, trying to get Callum promoted. They've got bigger fish to fry at the moment. And
much bigger fish to fry.
It's stuff that
Suki can get away with murder.
Suki is getting away with murder. Continue. But then Jean was able to fix the situation because Jean rallied up all the market traders and stop them all from ever shopping in Minute Mart ever again.
Yeah, that's it. The Minute Mart's going down now. Jean's on the case. She's boycotting all of Suki's businesses. Yep.
The Minute Mart, the call centre. There's no calls in that call centre. Stacey's turning up for work. There's no point in her being there, quite frankly.
No, well, was there anyway? As if Stacey was ever going to do any work there. Laziest woman in the square.
I know. I'm really looking forward to her going on her coffee breaks to the cafe. And just,
I'm on my break.
Yeah, I'm on my break. I'm getting a coffee for Corette. It'll be fine. He won't mind.
Oh, bless her. So obviously, Suki has now changed her mind thanks to Stacey talking to Kirat, and she's now said once again that, all right, they can stay, but I'm raising the rent. This house must be the most expensive in London, the rate that she's raising this rent. It must be more than worth than Buckingham Palace at this rate.
I feel the bar was quite low to start with, though, to be honest. Apparently it's quite cheap to live in E20 compared to the rest of London.
Oh, well, it must be. Compared to some of the characters that live there, you think the properties must be pretty cheap.
Yeah, to be fair, we're everyone's ragging on Suki, but maybe she's just putting it actually in line with the rest of London. There's nothing wrong with what she's doing. She's just trying to make a fair wage from a property that she owns.
She's an absolute angel.
And also, if the Slaters need the money, why don't they just get the kids to go to up the chimneys and down the coal mine? That'd be fine.
Sell a kid. They've got enough of them. Exactly. It's not like they're going to miss any of them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's about 6 kids in that house that haven't been mentioned in about a year.
That's what Kat should have done. Gone to Phil, not to ask him for help with the heist, but ask him to help her sell a child.
Human trafficking again. Yeah, you used to do that, didn't you, Phil? No, it's Ben. Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about Phil human trafficking.
There you go.
But yeah, so Kat wasn't able to succeed with convincing Phil with him to help them do a heist, but instead Phil inadvertently offered Kat a job cleaning his house. So
why not?
Yeah, so presumably Kat's going to use her sexual manner and her...
Oh, God, I hope not.
I mean, she's not the first Slater to try to convince Phil through a, means of, sexuality. Jean tried it only a few months ago.
Not even the first this year to try that.
No. Do you think that Kat and Phil are on the cards?
No.
I think they might be. I think they might be.
No.
Which is another...
please no.
But don't you think this is another kind of prod into Kush's side if he finds out that she slept with Phil?
I mean, I know she slept with Derek, but for the love of God, surely she's got better standards than that. I mean, to me, I feel that it's more about Kat getting in there so that she can sort of case the joint out and maybe get herself some information. Maybe something to bribe Phil with so that he actually does help her with the heist. I mean, as also, she can't be forgetting that Phil lives with a copper.
Well, no, he lives with Callum.
Yeah, not a particularly good copper, but he lives with a copper. He is a copper.
Well, is he?
I mean, he wears the uniform and has a truncheon.
His oversized, his fancy dress uniform that he bought down probably at the market at some point. I'm sure he just turns up. I'm sure he's not actually educated as a police officer.
He's just a cleaner.
Yeah. And D.I. Gaffney, whatever his name is.
D.I. Gaffney.
He just decided to kind of, you live with Phil, don't you? Come on, get us some evidence. I'll let you have a badge. Come on,
I'll let you turn the sirens on. Also, I thought they were going to mention it this week, and they haven't. It would appear, unless they mention it next week, and please let them, because otherwise it's ridiculous. They seem to have completely swept under the carpet that Stacey nearly killed Phil last year, and that for a while he thought it was Kat. And I don't think that story hasn't been mentioned once since Stacey came back. It's been sort of swept under the carpet by a clean Slater, Yeah, I just think that it seems a bit ridiculous that they're not mentioning that whatsoever. You think at the very least Phil's interest in potentially working with the Slaters over a heist would at least be, yeah, but you tried to kill me last year. Why would I want to work with you? Do you know what I mean? Like, nothing has been mentioned of this whatsoever.
No, it's been like a lot of things that have happened in current history of EastEnders. It's just forgotten about, and they're hoping that the viewers will forget, but they don't. And
well, no, because the story went on for about 6 months just to get Lacey Turner off for a few months so she could could have a baby. It was the longest maternity story I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, the Slaters have a big history with Phil, don't they? Obviously, the cat had stolen money that Alfie had stolen from Phil after selling his car when he said he was going to keep it in storage for him. Again, forgotten about. If Phil does decide that he's going to help Cat out with the heist, which presumably is what's going to happen, he's not going to do it unless there's something in it for him. And when Cat first had mentioned the idea, there was nothing in it for him. So
I think she implied that it would be easy money. So presumably he was going to get... I mean, presumably they're not just going to nick enough money to pay the rent. They're going to go the full hog and nick like a few grand or something like that, aren't they? So presumably Phil was going to get some of the money.
And we've just done it as well. What we're losing...
What, a heist?
No, not yet anyway. I'll have to talk to you about this when the microphone's off air.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
But we're losing sight of the fact that this story really should be about Kush and his gambling addiction and his depression and what's going to happen with him in the future. And they're now using a ridiculous subplot in order to conclude the story. And again, it's a heist. It's frustrating me so much that they're doing it because I want to investigate Kush's story. That at the beginning of the week, Kush stood up and said, "I'm an addict. I need help." And he said it to Kat and he said it to Stacey. And both of them just kind of went, "Yeah." So the heist. And it was like, wow, are we actually forgetting this now? I want to explore Kush's story. I don't want to explore Kat cleaning Phil's house to find out some dirt about him and or him then participating in the heist.
Unless the story is going in the way of Kush, something going horrifically wrong with this heist, which leaves Kush feeling uber guilty about something that has happened because of him, which then will sort of pile on the guilt and depression inside him. That's the possibility.
I mean, it was just done so gently, and I love to reference old EastEnders when they did the Arthur story and he stole the Christmas money, and because of the consequences of people discovering that and him being arrested and having the fine, he then went into a spiral depression, and it was done in such a gentle way, but far more impactful and less gangster. That's what gets me. I hate the gangster stories. I think that's what I don't want.
Gangster stories are a sort of staple of EastEnders, though, aren't they?
They don't have to be.
Nothing new.
I don't think they have to be.
But if you think about it, gangster stories have been sort of blood of EastEnders since the very early 90s. Since the Mitchells first came into it, gangstery stuff has been a thing.
Well, they were in there even when Dirty Den, he was associated with gangster.
Well, yeah, exactly. The gangsters thing has always been there in the background, and it feels like they can't have a few months go by without Phil being a gangster or someone being a gangster. God knows what they're going to do when Phil eventually leaves, because there's no potential gangsters on the square at the moment, really, apart from Ben.
Well, I don't know. We got Ruby, and
that's true.
We've got potentially Suki.
That's true. Also,
I mean, Mitchell's. I've said before, I'm quite happy for them just kind of be put to the one side just a little bit. And I know they're a pull for the show. I think there is more out there that could potentially be better. Oh, God, I'm going to get hung for that comment, aren't I?
I think so. Well, deserved.
Wow, okay. Well, let's move on quickly then, because like
bitch,
me...
you cow.
Yes,
go on.
Bitch.
You cow.
Jack is having some suspicions about Callum because everything seemed to fit quite nicely into place with Ellie's arrest and them getting Raymond. And I think Jack's pretty much, Jack's not stupid, although he likes to give the impression that he is. He did work out quite quickly that perhaps Callum is closer to the Mitchells than now he thinks, and he could potentially be quite dangerous being in the police. But obviously Jack doesn't know that Callum also has that deal with D.I. Gaffney behind the scenes too. Yeah,
Jack all of a sudden has turned into the best detective Walford's ever seen and has worked out all the little facets of the storyline. Yeah, I mean, how much of a threat is Jack going to really be in the long run in this? Is it just to give Jack something to do for a little while he's not with Denise, or is he actually going to be a key component in the story going forward?
I wonder if he's going to be part of the story, because with Max leaving, I wonder if Jack might leave too, and there might be a reason for it linked to this story somewhere. Maybe. It's potential. I mean, all I know is, much as the whole sort of Callum and D.I. Gaffney thing is sort of getting a bit repetitive at the moment, Jack being in there saying, "And I'm here too, by the way, and I know stuff," isn't helping. No. So I feel like
whatever happens, I'd like to see that story sort of be moving on now. Because at some point, Callum needs to get found out for what he is or isn't doing. And I'm still no more the wiser as to whether Callum is actually trying to help Phil or be against Phil.
Funnily enough, that's the component I like most about this story. I like that we don't know what side Callum is on. It's the part that's the most interesting for me. The aftermath of Callum doing one thing for Phil and then doing another thing for D.I. Gaffney is not of interest for me. I just want the reveal to be where Phil and D.I. Gaffney kind of realise that they're both being played, and what then is going to happen to Callum. Because Ben also this week felt a little bit left out, that Callum seemed to be having more involvement now than he has ever really had with his dad, other than obviously the aforementioned heist.
Yes, and then starts going through Callum's phone. God knows what he'll find on there. I think all their Ballum fan fiction will be on there. And he's in for a good night if Callum just hadn't come downstairs.
I mean, it's poor Callum. Like, he caught him doing it and he went, "What are you doing with my phone?"
Why does nobody ever on a soap have a phone code? Never happens. Nobody ever has a phone code on their phone in a soap. It's just there to be opened at any given opportunity to find out any secrets that you might need to. Even if he needs to use Callum's fingerprint, something, you're just holding his phone over his face when he's asleep to sort out the face recognition, anything. But
I'd love to see that. I'd love that to be a scene. Yeah, when you see Ben wake up and he just has a quick glance over the bedside table and he sees Callum's phone ready to be unlocked by a sleeping Callum.
Holds it against Callum's face, and then it opens.
Right up to
and
his
then
face
the duff comes up as Ben's face is illuminated at the night by the appearance of all these text messages. See, we should do this.
Oh, I mean, that's a story.
That's a duff.
I could build a week around that. I could build a full week.
A month. That's 2022 sorted.
That's an anniversary episode, that is.
Yeah, we'll save that for the 40th.
Mark these words. That's going to come back up on the 40th anniversary.
If I get my dream of being an EastEnders writer, that duff is happening. I'm telling you now.
I worry for the future of Ballum, to be honest with you, because they've had such a rocky path up to this point anyway. But it's been nice that it's been a relationship which has had its ups and its downs, and it's very, very downs. But I just don't see really... Especially with him, if he does double-cross Phil ultimately, will Ben then betray his own dad? Nah.
No.
I mean, he can't. He came with the intentions of doing it, but then gave up on the idea and decided to be his best friend. Yeah, just forget about that. Sweep it under the carpet.
I suppose the whole idea of it ultimately is going to be to test Ben's loyalty, isn't it? And this is going to, I think this, because at the minute Phil and Ben are getting on really well. And I'm presuming this story is sort of designed to be the next component in their relationship going forwards.
Yeah, but are Bill and Phil getting on? Because they have so many arguments, and normally it's about Callum. I think Phil fancies Callum, quite honestly.
Well, who can blame him in that policeman's outfit? Yeah, I know. I mean, I think it's. I mean, ultimately, you're asking yourself, who is Ben more dedicated to? Is it going to be Phil, who has given him nothing but hell throughout his entire life? Or is it Callum, who makes a good breakfast? I think given the choice between the two, I'd have the breakfast. Oh, yeah, God, exactly. Yeah.
Nothing like a nice breakfast in the morning served to you. Moving on, we are going to talk about a story actually I really loved this week, and that is obviously Rainie finding out that she had a phantom pregnancy.
Yes.
And I didn't see it coming. Genuinely did not see it coming.
Neither did I. I thought it was a really good little twist, and thank God they're finally giving Stuart and Rainie something to do that's actually testing the two characters and the actors. They worked. I mean, Stuart and Rainie were my highlight of the week by far this week. They worked really well. So yes. After an accident on Keegan's bike, which I'm pretty sure that's not the first person Keegan's knocked over with that bike this year.
He needs to take a page out of Kat's book and never be riding on a moped ever again.
There's a brilliant promo pic of Kat on a bike just looking like, ah! It's a great picture. Yeah, after an accident, because Rainie's listening to a meditation app.
Yes.
I actually really liked the audio of her like listening to this audio woman, and this woman sort of talking like this and take lots of deep breaths.
Oh.
The way that they cut it in, I quite enjoyed that.
You don't normally like the added audio,
no, I don't,
my friend.
No, I don't, and I have something to say about that later in the week as well. But so Keegan comes along on his little moped bike thing, knocks Rainie down to the ground. She's rushed to hospital, terrified that she's lost a baby. And then we discover that there never was a baby. And that's nothing to do with Rainie being deceitful, but she was actually going through a phantom pregnancy.
Oh, my heart broke.
I know. Now, I researched this because I was like, all the other sort of symptoms I can sort of get with the idea of phantom pregnancy, the throwing up and, the feeling bloated and period and all of that sort of thing. The food cravings of wanted ice cream covered in ketchup, I wasn't sure whether that was actually a component in what you might go through if you were suffering a phantom pregnancy. But apparently, food cravings are a thing with phantom pregnancies.
Okay.
It does not explain, however, why she was then tucking into ice cream and ketchup after she discovered that she wasn't pregnant.
I mean, I think it was very much a comfort thing, because Stuart was also eating the ketchup and ice cream too.
Which is another reason why they're such a sweet couple. Because of course he would.
I always go on about, I always wanted Stuart and Rainie to be this dark side, but I don't hate that they also have this light side and this light story. We saw a little bit of dark Stuart again this week because he got very angry.
Rip Keegan apart, wasn't he?
Yeah, he really was, because he kind of blamed him for Rainie wanting to leave him. The relationship with Stuart and Rainie is so complicated, but also so perfect between them. I just love them so much, and I want them to. I just want them to have more. Give them more.
I mean, they summed up, because Friday's episode was a four-hander, which I absolutely loved. I love episodes like that, because they're so rooted in character, and it really gives us the opportunity to look into the characters' psyches and sort of look at who these people are and study their relationships. And they did a perfect little scene with Rainie and Stuart where they discussed each other and their relationship.
Yeah.
And it seems like they sort of see each other as the best that life had to offer each other. Rainie described it as the last two scraggy turkeys at Christmas.
Yeah.
It's sort of right. You can sort of see where Rainie's coming from, that she feels that she's let somebody down again, even though obviously phantom pregnancies aren't her fault, because she just wants to have a baby to make her, I don't know, feel like a woman, or to make her feel like she's doing her job as a woman, from kind of what she was saying. And it was, and it was really nice because she was talking about, all the drugs that she's taken and the relationship with Cora.
I mean, I got a bit angry when she started putting Cora down.
Well, no, Stuart said that more than she did, though, didn't she? And
he lost some kudos there, I have to be honest with you. Cora is a dream.
She is a dream, but at the same time, she's also a pretty crap mother.
How dare you?
Come on. She was having a fag and nearly killed a baby because she just let a baby tram just drift into the road while she was lighting a cigarette.
I always imagined, like, when she was looking after baby Abby that time. Remember that scene in Family Guy when Britney Spears has the baby and she kind of pushes the head in and then uses it as an ashtray?
Yeah,
I always imagine Cora doing something like that.
And she caved Rainie's head in with a frying pan. So she's not model mum of the year, really.
Yeah, but then she helped Denise when Denise was in her problems and her troubles. Cora's...
Yeah, but that's not her daughter.
Yeah, but Cora has seen the error of her ways. She's like the Shirley of the 2010s. She's okay. Just let Cora have her thing.
I mean, I love Cora. I want Cora back. I want them to bring Cora back because I love Cora and I love Ann Mitchell.
I love the way she trembles her lines as well. Like I love the way her delivery. I was hoping that if Rainie had the kid, that Cora would come to the christening and all the family would be together. I was so excited about it. I was just, and they just got taken away.
I mean, there's other opportunities. I think that there is genuinely an opportunity to explore Cora and Rainie's relationship, because I feel like I know we're going off topic slightly here, but Cora and Tanya, that was fairly well established. But I feel like there's a lot more to discuss with Rainie and Cora. And it's that sort of story that EastEnders always does so well. It's similar in the sort of Phil and Ben route. That sort of parent and child relationship that's been troubled since the start, that has been troubled for years and years and years, and those scenes where the two talk about their issues, a bit like we had with Mick and Shirley this week. I mean, the two stories are basically connected in a weird way. So, and also, what we've got to wonder is, why put those two together? There's a few theories online about Stuart and Mick, and the connection with Katy and Frankie, and whether Frankie is a secret daughter of Stuart.
We may have put one of those theories out there, Was
that our fault?
Possibly. I mean, it would be an intriguing twist if Stuart this is a theory. Right, I want to say this straight away before we get anyone saying, "Oh, just telling us stories." This isn't an actual storyline.
No, we're making this up as we go along. We plan this.
This whole podcast is just nonsense, but this is added nonsense. So this is just a theory on our behalf. And I don't want to sound like we're brilliant, but we have been quite good at theories in the past.
But we are brilliant.
Well, Chantel and the knife, cough, cough, dishwasher. Don't want to say
there
anymore.
You go.
Our theory is that perhaps we find out that Frankie is actually Stuart's daughter and that Katy had relationships with Stuart as well. Someone on Twitter actually had made a really interesting thought about Friday's episode, and that is that you saw that Stuart had the same upbringing as Mick, and where everyone thought that Mick had found his way out of the gutter and was able to like have this relationship with Linda, and they have been quite successful, and Stuart's always been seen as being very unsuccessful and still kind of like the stuff you find on the bottom of your shoe. It's actually now that Stuart has found his place in the world, and it's Mick who's now lost. And it's interesting that they had that juxtaposition on Friday's episode, that you were able to see it so glaringly, obviously. I thought that was really quite interesting.
I thought it was really well done on Friday, to be fair. And, you know, I suppose, you know, one story sort of leads into the other, so we can sort of dovetail into Mick and Shirley here as well. Like you say, the juxtaposition between the four characters was really interesting, because at the first glance you sort of think, well, why these four? Why these two pairings? Are we watching these specifically for? And you sort of, because the thing is, one of the complaints about this story with Mick is that it sort of retconned what we've had established about Mick's childhood.
Yes.
And I'm sort of trying to spool my way back to thinking what we actually did know about Mick's childhood. So I'm sure you can tell me better than what I already know. But where are we going wrong here? What's been sort of changed exactly?
We've always known that Mick and Linda met when they were childhood sweethearts at school, and Mick, it had been established that Mick had never slept with anyone else other than Linda. His first love, and embodied with it, has been him and Linda since the day. And Linda, they had their first kid when they were, I think, 16. I may be wrong there, but she was young.
It was Lee. When Lee was, it was Lee first, wasn't it?
That's it.
When they were 16, I think that's been mentioned.
And it was school age. I mean, when then Stuart was introduced 3-4 years ago, we then discovered that Stuart and Mick were friends when they were younger, and we now realise that it was because they were in the childcare system. And so, you're quite right. They kind of seem to be adding more and more and more to Mick's past. There was a line this week where Shirley said something about Katy, and Mick was like, "You should never say that about Katy. I've always been friends with her. I've always loved her, and you know, she's always been close. She's always been in my heart, or she's always been on my mind." And it's like, has she? Because you've never mentioned her up until this week.
I know. I mean, I have to be honest, and this is, I'm sorry, me being positive. I'm always a little bit more forgiving when it comes to saying, oh, well, you've never mentioned that before. Because otherwise, if you were mentioning every single story that was coming along for your character regarding your past, how many stories would we actually have? You know, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get it completely. And yes, this seems to be establishing as quite a cataclysmic thing that happened to Mick, which, given everything that's happened, especially with Linda, when, you know, with the Dean story, you would have thought that something might have been mentioned along the way. But at the same time, I feel that Mick sees absolutely nothing wrong with what happened to him. And I think that he seems to be defending anything that happened to him. Clearly, this Katy is very, very good at what she does. And because Mick's brain has been turned inside out by this woman.
Yeah.
You know, he sees it, I think, as... So what we were gathering from Mick on Friday, he sees Katy as sort of this knight in shining armour that saved him from, you know, a life that could have been even worse than the one that he's pictured thanks to Shirley. You know, she protected him from the kids at the care home. You know, she took him under her wing and basically seemed to treat him like her favourite, which is typical predator behaviour.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're going into some pretty dark topics with Mick now. I think this is going to be a pretty hard-hitting story if they're doing it right. You know, and this Katy, if you look at the effect that it's clearly had on Mick, and the complete and utter disbelief that he's got, that nothing is wrong with what happened. Yes, he was 12, but that's just the way it happened in his head, you know?
It's not uncharacteristic for this to be the case. It's the fact that Mick doesn't seem to think that... It's strange. Mick seems to see that what's happened was wrong, but doesn't blame Katy for it. He blames himself, even though he was the child in the situation. And I mean, Shirley still doesn't know what's happened between Katy and
no,
Mick
and
either.
I did think that's where they were heading on Friday.
Yeah, but I mean,
Shirley would know by the end.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It just because if you actually look at Mick's character since we've seen him, and Stuart's character actually, something like this would explain Stuart's sort of being a paedophile hunter at the start.
That's
when we first
right.
met him.
That's right.
It might also sort of go some way to explain the connection that Mick and Whitney have together. Sort of like this unestablished similarity between them of abuse, specifically childhood abuse. And I don't think I'm wrong in saying that actually they were the same age when it was happening to them, weren't they? Yeah, Mick saying that he was 12 when Frankie came along.
Right.
So that would have been, and not to want to go too graphic here, but that's about the age when boys can start developing that sort of initial thing, And Whitney was, I'm pretty sure, 12 when the Tony thing started. So again, it's a similarity there. Maybe would go some way to establishing their relationship that's sort of been unspoken before between them. So that might be an interesting thing going forward if those two have a scene together and speak, and it would make sense. I'd like to see that.
Do you know what? It's really strange. I've not even put Whitney into the equation of this story, and now you've put it into that context. Actually, yes, 100%. I mean, I worry that they're actually not even going to include Stuart with the story, and that it's just always going to be.
Yeah, we could be making this up. We could be making this up completely.
This could be
complete waste of time. But I think it would be a natural sort of thing to put in. And again, it's establishing the Mick and Stuart relationship, because I think the Mick and Stuart thing is quite weird at the moment. You sort of think about everything that Stuart put the Carters through a couple of years ago. Yeah. Not the same guy now whatsoever.
No, complete different character.
Yeah, forgotten. But it might be nice for them to have, again, that sort of conversation, because presumably these two were at the same care home we seem to be going for, yeah?
It seems to me that the Stuart and Rainie story is kind of going to go off in its own direction. From way that EastEnders is being written at the moment, quite rightly so, that people are in bubbles. It seems to me that I don't think Stuart's going to have any involvement with Katy and Mick for a little while now anyway. But Stuart's going to recognise Katy. And they all live in the same square, so he's going to have to spot her at some point.
Yeah, and also, of course, the other thing is that if we are to take what we're seeing at face value of how much of a... Because Mick's almost in sort of Stockholm Syndrome mode with Katy at the moment, I'm sensing, which would suggest that Katy is ridiculously good at this, and we're going to find out that Mick was not the only kid that she's been doing this to. I mean, this woman's scum, essentially, isn't she? Like, this is the sort of evil woman that Ellie should have been.
Yeah. I wonder if we're going to find out there's going to be more historical abuse in her past.
I think there has to be, because if you're actually looking at Mick and seeing how blinded he is to actually what happened, Mick does not see this as abuse. Mick does not see that he was raped.
No.
At all, in any circumstances. He understands in everybody else's life this would be statutory rape. But I don't think that he identifies himself as a victim in that regard because of his relationship with Katy at the time.
If she has got a history of having abused other young boys, or girls for that matter, we don't know. But she has only, from our knowledge, she has only had Frankie as a child. And does that kind of elevate Mick as to being the golden child?
Yeah, but had she, though? Who is this bloke that turned up to threaten Mick when he sent her a video message?
Well, yes.
We'll move on from that.
Well, first of all, that's quite rude of Mick to do that, when the text message would have been much better for a deaf person.
Like, oh my God. I didn't even think.
I mean, that's rude if you think about it.
Mercy. Right, yeah. So, that's a very good point. As a result of this very rude and insensitive video message that he sent her, this bloke turns up. We've got no idea who he is, and threatens Mick and says, "Stay away from Frankie." Now, who is this bloke? Is it Frankie's boyfriend? I feel like it's not Frankie's boyfriend, because it was implied that Frankie might be gay or.
Oh, no, I don't think she is gay. I think Tina just got the wrong impression. I think Tina saw the wrong signals.
How very unlike Tina.
Yeah.
So maybe she's a brother. So maybe this is another one of Katy's kids. Who
maybe.
knows?
That's true. That's true. I've never really thought about it. Or indeed, maybe Katy's partner. We don't really know. That is strange. I wonder if we will ever see him again. I wonder if he's going to be a bit like Stacey's boyfriend when she went missing for 6 months, and we never saw him again.
Turned up one episode.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about
that.
To
pick up Stacey's belongings. It was like we met at the school gates, and then off he went. And we all thought he was going to be coming back with Stacey as like a brand new partner for Stacey to make Martin jealous. And yep, nothing.
That's true.
Nothing
That's
at all.
True. Yeah, maybe. So I think early days with this storyline.
Yeah.
Tentatively, and maybe this isn't the right phrase to use, I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out. But God, they need to get it right.
I think they just need to make sure they find the right tone for this. I mean, it's. I doubt it will ever end up this way, but let's not make it a heist type of storyline. Let's make sure that it's going to be a story where they portray it nicely. And I think Danny Dyer has got the chops to do it. He can be a little bit... He can be a little bit pantomime from time to time, old Danny Dyer. Let's never forget when he went to Dickens Hill and the jail scenes and he stole the tin of baked beans. But he has got it in him.
Some of the camera angles don't help Mick, I've always found. If you notice, whenever they give Mick a duff, they do a really weird melodramatic zoom in on him. They did it twice this week. Mick's duff is like a camera zoom in, dramatic zoom in. So yeah, hopefully they kind of fade away from that a little bit. But no, you're right. Danny Dyer's more than capable of pulling off a story like this. So so are all, let's call them the supporting characters around this story as well. They're more than capable of doing something like this. Shirley, Linda Henry was phenomenal this week, I thought, with the the Mick stuff.
Yeah.
Oh God, he's being so cruel to her at the moment, isn't he?
I know, it's awful. But again, I can see why he's doing what he's saying to Shirley.
When I was going on last week and saying that the Mick and Shirley stuff was doing my head in because it didn't feel like it was going anywhere, this was all I wanted. That itch has been scratched now. I just wanted a bit of I should. I got some cream. That sort of need I had to want to have a bit of extra context to the scene and not make it feel as though it was stuff that had been repeated was dealt with this week really well. Friday's episode was by far the strongest of the week.
It always is, though. Friday. I know. If anyone ever says, this week's been really bad, I always think to myself, just wait till Friday.
Wait for Friday.
Friday's going to be a great episode. Sadly, Friday episode is always the one that doesn't seem to pull a rating as high as, say, a Monday.
Never has, though. It never has, though. Even when EastEnders was even when we were talking about sort of like the 8 million, 9 million days.
Yeah.
Friday was always the weakest day of the week, which is weird because, like you say, it's kind of fairly well established that the Friday duff is the one to watch because that's the one that's pulling you in for Monday. But then iPlayer is doing its job with EastEnders at the moment, apparently. Apparently it's basically the BBC's biggest hitter on iPlayer, apart from Strictly and all of that sort of malarkey. So
the EastEnders seems to be getting a better rating through replay than it is through a live broadcast. But I don't think that's what John Sen and Kate Oates wanted. They actually wanted it to become appointment television again, and they're not doing that. But that's a subject for another day, I think.
Yeah, that's another conversation.
Lovely.
I'm sure we'll have.
We certainly will. I think that's the week summed up. Lovely.
Is that everything?
I think so. I mean, there was a little bit with Max and Linda, but I don't really want to dwell on that too much.
Nothing really happened there. And we've talked about the condiments, so I think we've covered it all, so that's fine.
Check again. Would you mind staying on while we just look at a few comments on our Twitter and our social media?
Go for it.
Lovely.
Go for it, yes.
You know me, I ain't one to gossip.
So, as usual, we ask you to get in touch with us on our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook group. Don't forget you can find us on any of those just by simply searching Walford Weekly Podcast. And if you do find us on Facebook, don't forget to join. And you can also find us on YouTube too. And if you are listening to us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and put a thumbs up. All the same familiar stuff that I say every week, just repeated again. I'm
such a noob. I just did a thumbs up just as you said that, sort of as if to demonstrate it to the listeners. I'm an idiot.
If we ever do a video podcast,
I'm there.
Front row centre. Here's a few comments then. First of all, starting on our Twitter, @PeteBill7. There's 7 of them out there, and this is the 7th.
God.
He said, I loved this week, and I hope that Phil and Kat become an entertaining couple. Although intrigued about Mick's past and the rough time he had in care, maybe Stuart's past will overlap.
And I hope so. Also, with the Phil and Kat stuff, actually, I agree. I like the two characters together. I don't want any romance stuff. I'm not touching that with a 9-foot pole. However, I think in terms of iconic sort of characters of EastEnders at the moment, Phil and Kat are sort of there. They're up there, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
And visually, visually Kat is very EastEnders and visually Phil is very EastEnders. So I like watching the pair of them on screen together. I'm all up for more Kat and Phil stuff as long as it doesn't go anywhere near a romance. I quite like it.
Yeah, I mean, they've got that kind of comedy dynamic between them. Like the scene when Kat was outside putting the bins out and Phil was coming home and they had that chat over the wall. That actually was a really nice scene for me. That was an EastEnders scene and I enjoyed it a lot. I don't know if it's just a Kate Oates thing that I've heard, but she tends to like putting couples together that perhaps wouldn't necessarily match very well.
And that is very much a Kate Oates. She did a hell of a lot on Corrie. But the thing is with that method, when you chuck that much pasta at the wall, it's sometimes interesting to see what sticks. Is that an analogy?
It is an analogy. And if it wasn't, then it should be. If it's not, then it should be one.
You know what I mean?
I do.
So and again, it's sometimes you find yourself with two characters that bizarrely oh my god, you two are made for each other character-wise. Like, you're perfect together on screen. Like Stuart and Rainie, at first, you kind of think, what? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hang on, yeah, no, this is perfect. This absolutely works. Like Jay and Honey, again, it absolutely works. And again, Kat and Phil, like I say, no to romance, but in terms of two characters and the sort of bantery relationship and the sort of love-hate thing between them, perfect. I like it.
Lovely. Olivia Jane Rosegarden on Instagram has said, Thursday's episode was more exciting than Friday's, and I love the Jay and Honey storyline. I mean, we've talked about Jay and Honey storyline. It had potential to be problematic, but I think it's fine. Let it carry on.
Yeah. Your ship still sails, yeah.
And my ship, oh God, you're doing this again, are you?
Yeah. Titanic that is Honey and Jay.
Jess McVie on our Facebook group has mentioned that Ricky and Tanya were absolutely fantastic. I love seeing this side of their characters, where they really get to sink their teeth into the show and just how fantastic they both are together.
Took me a while to work out that you weren't on about the characters of Ricky Butcher and Tanya Branning then. I got a bit confused. I was like, what? Have I missed it? What? No, absolutely agree. I thought the pair of them absolutely nailed it, as we knew they would, because both of them are brilliant actors, and both of them are brilliant characters. So I want to say, we need more of those two as a couple. The comedy stuff is nice to watch and it's funny, but the more serious stuff, really, they showed that they can do that in bucket loads. So yeah, more of that.
Okay. Sydney Dumphy had said, after the aftermath of Kush and the actor leaves, it would be funny to have Kat and Phil put together, and it would be interesting to see Sharon's reaction.
I mean, I suppose she does sort of tick the box of Phil's normal sort of brassy, gobby type. You know what I mean? If you think about it, is his sort of relationship history. Sharon and then Shirley. I think it's a sort of thing that he'd do when drunk, or Kat would certainly do when absolutely hammered. I think that Phil, no. Just no. Wash your brain out. No.
We're going to end then with this final comment on Twitter from Sophie. And she said, tonight's episode just proves that you don't need a massive cast to make an impact. EastEnders is at its best when the stories are character driven. And this was proven when the scenes between Stuart and Rainie were shown. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely.
Like you say, character building is what EastEnders was born to do, and the fact that they haven't been doing it for such a long time, but then they gave the time. They always give it, again, it's always a Friday episode, they give the time up for them to build a character.
Yeah, it's the thing that's frustrating at the moment, because when they do an episode like Fridays, which is so heavily focused on just a very small number of characters, no other soap can touch it. The character stuff that EastEnders does is so miles above everywhere else. It's just sometimes they forget that they're that good at that.
Yeah, and they need to remind themselves that they are good at it. So we're reminding them right now on this podcast. So if you're listening, production crew, you're good at that. Yeah, do more of it.
Yes.
Lovely. So as always, just to remind you guys, if you're listening to us on YouTube, just to subscribe, do a thumbs up. Rob will help you out with that as well if you need any help of what a thumbs up is. There it is.
Thumb up.
You can't see it, but he's got his thumb up right now.
Oh, it's there. It's up.
And don't forget to comment below as well. You can also listen to us on any of your favourite podcast apps. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean. And again, if you're listening to us on any of those, don't forget to review us and be kind. Don't be mean. It's no point. We live in this world, this very small world, and it's just nicer to be kind to one another than cruel, even though we've just spent 60 minutes criticising a soap. But it's all fine.
Is that all we took? It seemed longer.
Thank you again, Rob, for joining us. Will you be joining us again next week?
Oh, go on then.
Oh, good. And thank you guys also for listening, and we hope that you can join us too. Have a great week, take care of one another, and we'll speak again soon. Bye.
Bye.